I think we now have the question a lot of people are asking, and it's a long one with multiple questions really on it. So I'm going to make this a minute and a half with a follow-up question to it that will follow after your first response, okay? The question is, what is your opinion of Measure B, and if you support it or not, why? And do you think it will be successful? What are the biggest risks and plans to overcome them? That's a really long one. I'll try that again, it's a long question. What is your opinion on Measure B? If you support it or not, why? And do you think it'll be successful? And what are, maybe the important things are what are the risks and your plans to overcome them? And then you can take the question of the risk whichever way you like. I think, Steve, you're next to start.
I oppose Measure B. I oppose it for 3 reasons. I don't know if there are time to tell you all 3 reasons, but let me give you the top one. The first one is it is not working a pension reform. What we're going to do is we're going to buy a lawsuit. In fact, Sam Liccardo made part of his motion that if Measure B is successful, the next day the city attorney is required to file a lawsuit to see that it is lawful. Several lawyers have already said that it is unconstitutional by both the state and the federal constitution. So consequently, we are going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to an Oakland law firm, not even a San Jose law firm, to find out whether we can possibly make somewhat new law for other communities. That is not a good expenditure of our money. The second reason I oppose it is that there is a change in the definition in disability. If a police officer is shot and paralyzed from the waist down, he or she will not be disabled under the new definition. That's not fair. I believe in real pension reform. I'd like to see perhaps capping at a certain amount of money. I'd like to see stopping double dipping, and Measure B has none of those provisions.
Thank you, Steve. Next.
Thank you. I oppose Measure B.
Louder.
I oppose Measure B.
I'm a strong proponent of Measure B. I've led the way on the City Council on pension reform. I authored Measure W, which went on the ballot to you 16 months ago. And 16 months ago, 74% said we wanted pension reform. In that specific case, it was pensions for new employees that have yet to work at the city. People that haven't even clocked in one day, the ability to offer them a different pension. And unfortunately, this week at the City Council, or last week, we had a 5-5 vote. We couldn't even implement the will of the voter. It's a sad case when all of our property tax, all the property tax that you pay that goes to the city, goes just to pay pensions. And that's a reality, and that's the fact. Otherwise than that, when there's a private sector 401k in this country, their average match is 3 to 6%, and we match at 250% with a guaranteed rate of return of 7.75, and the most generous COLA in the state of California. My friends, it's a beautiful benefit, but it's very expensive, and it comes at the cost of providing other city services. And we know Stanford University did a study, and what did they say? Hey, this thing is fixable. If every household would just simply write a check for $12,000, and that includes apartments, it would be fixed. But my guess is, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to write a check for $12,000. You probably want to take care of your own mortgage and your own concerns, and we can do this through pension reform. But it takes leadership to do it, and not just passing it on to the next generation.
Thank you. For both, whatever position, it delays the process, so I'd like to ask you to minimize that. This is a follow-up to that question. Assuming pension reform, well, maybe I should read it as exactly as I was going to modify it in a little bit. How do you intend to mend fences once pension reform is done? It could be either passage of the ballot measure or some other reform. And I will add to that, how will you bring respect, unity, and solidarity with city employees to heal damage being done? So if I could give that a minute, and I believe, Bill, you would be the starting. The question was, how will you intend to mend fences once pension reform is done? And I think I added to that, and how do you bring respect, unity, and solidarity to city employees to heal the damage?
You know, quite frankly, I really don't know what to do to amend the fences. We're telling police officers that the money that we offered them, the benefits that we offered them before are too much, and that they're not worth it anymore. And it's destroying the morale of the police department. 30% of the cops are going to leave because they're going to be double-crossed. They do not trust what's happening. And what do we do to mend that fence? First of all, the council, instead of making the decisions and doing the hard work, have put the measure on the ballot and are leaving it up to the people because it's a hot potato. And that way they can blame the people when things fall apart and we don't reconcile, and that's the problem. We need to somehow find a different solution, and a different solution comes from a different frame of mind and a different set of priorities at City Hall. And it's starting from the beginning and looking in a different direction. And I don't know how you do that in the present situation. All I can do is start with one person and have it turn around from there. You know, especially in an election where only half the council is going to be replaced.
I reject the term city employees. They are firefighters, they are police, they are librarians. They stand in line with you at Safeway. They're our neighbors. They are human beings. They are our friends. And most importantly, they demand and deserve all our respect for the hard work that they do every single day. And that's the important part of it. I have mediation experience. I have worked 35 years as an attorney. I know how to bring people together. I know how to advocate for things. At some point, you have to resolve an issue. We can argue and argue and argue, but at some point, we have to solve the problem. And that's the important thing. And forcing things down people's throats that they don't want is not going to be the solution to the problem. We need to respect our workers. We need to be fiscally sustainable, but we do not need to hurt other people. Thank you.
I believe there's dignity in all work, regardless what occupation would you choose in life. And if how many people here have ever been laid off? I've been laid off, and I'll tell you, it was a tap on the shoulder, go see HR, here's your 2 weeks, you're out the door. Now that's the private sector. In the public sector, we're a little bit different. But the reality is, we have to face these choices, we can't shirk them, and in the end, once we get past November, and you pass Measure B, then it's time to look at what positions in the city should we compensate more. So for example, if we're having difficulty recruiting for a position, simply raise the salary. At that point, you'll have people coming. We have some positions where we have an endless amount of applicants, and other positions we have very few. So it's important to let that be the barometer. And in the end, we're all adults. We need to manage this in a way that respects each other. In the end, I wish we could have done it by negotiation, but unfortunately we were not able to get there. And this is where it allows us to make the change, is actually voter approval.
I think that would just first rebuttal card, 30 seconds.
There are proposals on the table. You can go to the website, and you also know that the city has not told us specifically how these numbers are wrong. If the numbers are wrong, negotiate the numbers, just like you do when you buy your house or you buy your car. That's the problem. It takes two sides to negotiate. There are proposals on the table that solve the problem. Let's really examine them, and let's Have the city tell us why those numbers are wrong.
Thank you. The second rebuttal just coming up.
I think it's clear we need to point out the distinction between individuals. When I put Measure W on the ballot that you passed with 74%, Mr. Kline signed the ballot argument against it. He didn't just vote against it, he actively put his name that even a new pension for someone who doesn't even work here yet is too severe. And that's the type of difference that you have in this race.
I'm going to change the direction and discussion just a little bit and go on to a different type of question. What current public jobs should be outsourced? And let's...
Who was last?
I believe,
Well,
Pierluigi, you're first.
I'll be on this question. So I voted in
1
favor.
minute.
What's that?
Sorry, 1 minute.
I voted in favor of outsourcing janitorial at City Hall and the airport, saving millions of dollars, and everything's just and clean. The good news, that helps us keep the airport curfew. Secondarily, it manages us to keep a library open, because that's the other cost. I also been supporting outsourcing park maintenance. We outsourced all small parks under 2 acres. That line item used to be $4.2 million. It's now $1.3 million. And the residents who live across from these parks have told me, and they've lived across these parks for 25 years, they've never seen it look better. So in reality, we need to manage things that we can do with economies of scale through outsourcing, take that cost savings, and put it into things that you won't outsource, like a police officer or something like that. But that needs to be done, and if we can get those cost savings, then I'm able to provide more. The city would be able to provide more. The idea that it's unfair or unjust is not the case. The reality is we are a workforce, and we should be able to, manage these things and give you the best benefit for your tax dollar, and that works in this regard.
Outsourcing is one of those buzzwords. They appear on a bumper strip, but no one really knows what it means. What outsourcing means is we have to have the exact same program that the city had with a new outside force for less money. Now, let's talk about the graffiti program. That's not there. We had a nationally recognized graffiti program. Now we have 1/2 of that program. There's a memo or a report from the Parks and Rec Department about outsourcing parks and maintenance throughout the system. It will cost the city $170,000 more money. That won't solve the problem. The other kind of thing is the San Jose City Auditor said that she can't find all the outside consultant contracts. And that means is that we don't have really good management over what's happening. And what happens is on any Tuesday afternoon, there becomes what's called a change order. Oh, I bid it at $100,000, but I really need another 60. And that's a problem.
You. Next, please.
I really don't know what to do about this outsourcing thing, because you're making choices between different jobs that need to be done by city workers and different jobs that aren't being done by city workers. And all city jobs should be done by city workers. How else do you have any control over it? It's something that we're letting go of a professional, wonderful group of folks that have done a wonderful job for a long time, and now we don't have the money because we've changed our priorities in terms of what we want to pay for. And to me, it seems that we're trying to change something that shouldn't be changed in order to accommodate something that shouldn't be happening. And we need to look at the big picture and come back to what's the most important thing about our being in control of our destinies. And with individual contracts with all these different contractors, the city doesn't have the same kind of controls it does over its own employees. And
thank you, Bill.